Hi everyone, welcome to the American Computer Enthusiast Show. My name is Steve Reeves and I'll be the host. We got a great show. We've got Bill Gates, CEO of Microsoft, and Ray Norda, CEO and President of Novell. So it'll be a great show, so stay tuned and we'll be right back.
Portions of this show have been made possible by PC People, Houston's user-friendly source for business software, serving the business and academic communities. Call PC People at 789-6300 and talk to our dedicated staff when you're looking for intelligent answers to your software needs. And by Total CAD Systems, specializing in the sales, service, and support of CAD software and hardware for the PC and Sun. Total CAD Systems is an authorized dealer for AutoCAD, the leader in computer-aided design software. Call 721-CADD. And by GDT Reprographic Services. Providing documentation to the professional design industry using advanced technologies and personalized service. GDT, where you're more than a number. Call for free pickup and delivery.
These are teachers, but to the kids they've reached, they're heroes. Be a teacher. Be a hero. Call 1-800-45-TEACH.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the show. In case you just tuned in, this is the American Computer Enthusiast Show. My name is Steve Reeves, and our show tonight, like I said, there was going to be two guests, Bill Gates and Ray Norda. Well, April Fools. Today is April 1st, and what did we decided to do? I know everybody's probably turning the channel out because they're so upset with me, but don't worry, it's just April Fool's Day, right? We've got one guest, and it's James DiMaggio from ABIS, and we're going to have a help show. We're going to talk about all kinds of things. We've got all kinds of great new things that just came out today. I'll make sure you call in. This is a live show. The phone number is 861-6283. Just came up on the screen there. 861-6283. Call in and ask us any kind of question. Even if we don't know the answer, we'll make one up because it's April Fool's Day. But if you want to ask anything about DOS 6.0, I've had it a couple of days now, and I'm an expert already in 2 days. But we do have it on the computer here. We'll answer some of the questions about DOS 6.0, about antivirus. We're going to talk about antivirus. This originally was supposed to be an antivirus show, but we decided to make it into like a help show with everything because now DOS 6.0 has antivirus built in, and we'll be able to talk about anything. We'll talk about new Novell releases that came out today. We'll talk about Lantastic. We'll talk about anything you want to talk about, anything you want to ask. But I guess one thing I do want to make sure is you do know this is a live show. Phone number is 861-6283. We do have a hotline, and I always have to look this up. I know everybody gets mad when I have to look it up. But, oh, there it is right there, 587-5369. And you can call and leave a message what you'd like to see in future shows, what you like about shows, how mad you are that Bill Gates isn't on the show tonight. You know, you can leave messages like that. We don't listen to him anyway, but... No, we do. I'm just kidding. But anything you'd like to talk about, make sure you call in, 861-6283. I guess that's all the announcements I have tonight, but I do want to make sure that you do know that we'll try to answer any questions and anything from, we've had questions from where's the backslash on my keyboard to, you know, anything you want to know about anything. First thing I want to do, though, is introduce our guest. Our guest is James DiMaggio from ABIS. Welcome to the show.
Hi there.
Why don't you tell us, you've been on the show a number of times already. Most people know who you are, but just in case this is the first time, why don't you tell us just a little bit about yourself and a little bit about ABIS and what ABIS stands for.
Advanced Business Information Systems, what it stands for. We're located over in the Heights. We're a VAR reseller. We build our own computers. We do a lot of networking, a lot of Windows on networks. We do a lot of beta testing. We're a Fox Pro house. Pretty much one-stop solution. So if we do it in computer, if it can be done in computers, we play with it. Other than CAD, and then we send them to you.
Oh, okay, great, good answer there. The one thing I do want to show is what we have here is a little setup. Before we start talking about this, I'll tell you what we've got set up here. This is an AST notebook. It's the 386 SX20. It's just monochrome, but I have it hooked up to a multi-sync 3D monitor. There it is right there. I just loaded, actually yesterday, day before yesterday, whenever it was, when they had that big unveiling at the Texas Medical Center when they did the downlink, the satellite downlink from Microsoft, and actually it was even though they're in Seattle, it was in San Francisco at the, how do you say it, Moscone Center or something
like
the
that,
convention
yeah.
center in San Francisco. I loaded DOS 6.0, and so we will talk about DOS 6.0 is I'll try to answer as many questions as we can. I've only had it a couple of days, so I don't have everything. We've already got callers already, too.
Cool.
But the one thing we do want to talk about, make sure we do talk about, since the title of the show is supposed to be antiviruses, we want to make sure we talk about antiviruses and how those are now going to fit with DOS 6.0. How do you think, is there still a reason to buy antivirus programs?
Basically, no, because they've gone to Central Point Antivirus and just included it in DOS. Central Point wrote it. So if you're buying CPAV, Central Point Antivirus, it's built in now. We'll probably see regular updates come out. That's what they're promising at this point. So as the new viruses and new stealth technology comes out, it's a never-ending battle as to who does what and so forth. So
I think it's like $9.95 for updates.
Yeah.
For the antivirus. They'll send you, notices and things the same exact way that Norton does now and Central Point does. But the only thing that I can see that might be different is I don't know if DOS 6.0, if it does, I haven't figured it out yet, where it automatically checks in the beginning when you turn the computer on. I think
yes,
it does do that?
It can do a boot sector check, and it will do a clean and a remove or just a detect.
Okay.
So
I've
you
got
can
mine
set it up
just in a menu where either in Windows or in DOS, from the DOS prompt,
Right.
where it'll check it automatically.
It seems that they've done one thing, and they've kind of incorporated it a little bit into the kernel. So
Right.
we may see some better checking of the command com and the hidden files than what an external program can do, because it has all the file tables built into it. So
Right.
the other thing is you can actually remove the signatures from the files if you want to.
Oh, okay.
So that's new.
All right.
And
We've
other
got
than
phone
that's
calls.
good.
We might as well
Go,
start
go,
going. We've
go.
got these things going. Who do we have here today? We've got
it's got to be Herb.
Robert. Do you have a question?
Yes, I do. I'm interested in the 6.0. I'm real excited about the compression part of the 6.0. Can you kind of briefly explain how that works? Is it when you update, say like from 5, like I'm running now, does it go in and just compress everything, or what does it actually compress?
The way it works, with the experience that I've had so far, I've actually done 4 computers so far. The way it works is that when you load DOS 6.0, when you upgrade from 5.0 to 6.0, it works exactly the same way as when you updated from 3.3 or 4.0 to 5.0. It's automatic setup. You can use the express setup. It doesn't do the double space automatically until you go in and do it yourself. You just type in DBL space, SPACE. And when you do it, it'll prompt you to do, if you want to do that express or you want to do that custom. I did it on all my computers, just the express, where you just hit return, 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 and go through all the questions and everything else. And what it does is it compresses every file it can. Now there's certain files like some exe files and some things that it won't compress, but certain like, for example, one we were talking about, there's some like AutoCAD files, some of the drawing files don't compress, but it compresses everything it can. I did some benchmarks here just to show you. I had done 4 different machines. I went from like a 210 megabyte hard drive. After I did double space, it went to 399. It's not always double. It's some proportion, like 1 to 7 or whatever. It
just depends on what you're on there, yeah.
And I did another one that was went from 210 to 343. This one, for example, went from 60 to 90. So really, it only had 30, but it's better than a kick in the pants. I mean, 30 megabytes on a notebook is worth it. And the other thing about it is, it doesn't make a huge difference in speed. It does on big things. Like, for example, I did a bunch of benchmarks specifically for the show. Like loading Windows, for example, on a machine, it took 13 and a half seconds to load without the double space loaded. When I loaded double space, it took 14 seconds. It was only a half a second difference.
That's fantastic.
But on big things like, I loaded like, I I sell AutoCAD, and because I've got some big programs. I loaded AutoCAD for Windows, and there was about an 8-second difference. It was like 26 seconds compared to 34. I mean, only a few seconds, but then when loading a huge, gigantic plan, it was about a 600K file. It was a 38 seconds to 42, so that's only, what, 6 seconds? 6 seconds, pretty good adding. 4 seconds difference. What happens when you're on TV? Your brain goes dead there. But it's only a 4-second difference. And to almost double, or, you know, a third bigger, whatever it is, your hard drive, I think it's worth it. You know, I don't do any real work at my office, so I don't really care. But
sounds real good to me. One more question, I'll let you go.
All right.
On the when you set it up, when you first install it, stuff I've read from Microsoft that goes in and does your config sys and auto exec bat. Is that right? It sets your machine up to the best ability that it will run, and you don't have to do any management of your upper memory or anything like that?
That's another program run just like double space. It doesn't do it automatic. You have to type in memmaker. We'll actually talk about it tonight, but it's MEMMAKER, all one word. And you type that in, and what it does, it has the same exact setup as like double space, where you can do the customization or the express, and if you hit express, which I picked every single time, you hit it, and it actually. It's the same thing. I don't know if you have QEMM, or do you know anything about QEMM?
I know about it. I'm not running it.
Okay, it works a lot like Optimize, but it seems to be a lot cleaner. For example, I just happen to have some benchmarks right here. On one machine, I had a 485K free. After I ran memmaker, I had 631K free.
Oh, man.
Another machine, I went from 507 to 629. But I will tell you, I mean, there's a few little quirks. I shouldn't say this, Microsoft will probably bomb the building, but there's a few things, and we'll go through that. A few little things you have to know when you run both double space and memmaker if you've got certain configurations. I mean, I'll go ahead and tell you right now one problem that I had. One was, I'm just talking here a mile a minute. The one problem that I had was I have an auto exec file. James is over here yawning. I had an auto exec file, and the last command in my auto exec file was menu. It goes into my main menu that has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to load whatever I want to load. Well, for some reason, when you load memmaker, it actually reboots itself and puts that at the end of the statement. Well, for some reason, what happened was it would go in the circle and it would load the menu, and it wouldn't continue to the last line, which was the memmaker. So I needed to get rid of or rem out that
Menu is actually a batch file.
Right.
You need to do calls on your batch files,
You can't have a batch file in your auto exec file. If your last
Yes, you can.
Well, no, I mean if you're running it the way I'm doing it on my machine, which a lot of people I know, but you
We'll
can
show that. Stay tuned. We'll show
if you happen
calling
to do
batch
it-
files.
Yeah, if you happen to do it like me, which is probably not the right way, it will it doesn't complete it. So every time you reboot the computer, it says come up with some error saying we never did complete memmaker. Do you want to continue? And then you'll say yes, and you keep going in a circle, and it'll do it 20 times until I finally figured out it's that batch file that's holding everything up. So there are a few little things you need that aren't in the manual that you've got to kind of know about. If you do everything by the book, I'm sure everything will work perfect.
Well, I sure appreciate your answer, and I'll hang up and watch the rest of the show.
All right, but I do think the upgrade is I think it's well worth it for all the, and we'll talk about all the different reasons
When
tonight.
I've read it, it looks like it's well worth it.
Great.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks for calling.
Okay, my turn.
Oh, wait, we have a caller here. Hold on one second.
All right.
Jason, do you have a question?
Yes, I was wondering, I heard all these great things about this, but what's the price of DOS 6.0?
DOS 6.0 is selling, the suggested retail upgrade is $49.95. You can find it from $48 to $43, I think, running around on the street price, so it's not very expensive at all.
But you have to buy it. What is it? What's the cutoff date? May 31st?
I think so. I think it's the end of next month.
End of next month, May 31st, it goes up to $129.
Oh, really?
$129.95, so it's a good idea to buy it now.
Do you have a number or something you could tell us where we could purchase that?
Well, I know one of our sponsors, PC People, it'll come up on one of the breaks. I know they have it I know for a fact they have it.
Okay.
862-2247.
Hear that?
Okay.
Okay.
And this is off the subject, but Sound Blaster and multimedia, is that really worth it?
Personally, I think it is. I think it's the funnest thing I've ever got.
I know. Would you go with the Sound Blaster or the Sound Blaster Pro?
Well, it depends on how much money you have. It actually, there are some differences. I mean, the Sound Blaster is, they're 8-bit.
There's only about $50 more.
Right.
Go to the Pro.
I'd go to the Pro or the 16 if you've got a bunch of extra money. The new what's called 16 ASP. But the Pro, I have a Pro at home, and it works great. It's real easy to install. I mean, everything is compatible with everything. But I do think it's worth it to go to the Pro just for the programs that come with it, and what else is the difference? There's a couple.
The Pro has a better sampling rate than the 16 and the Sound Blaster, and so you get better sound quality out of it. And there's some new add-on products that are coming out that are Pro-based, like the new Kovacs Voice Master, where you can actually control your computer with a voice.
We're going to have to take a quick break. Can you
Break
hold on the
time,
line
hang
there?
on.
We'll continue your question after the break. Just hold on 1 second.
Thank you.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Shamu,
And the Texas tuxedo.
Shamu,
We go everywhere he goes. Can help us make a great big splash. If we all get rid of roadside trash.
Shamu,
And to all this message reaches.
Shamu.
Don't forget about our beaches. Can lend a hand or fin. Come on, let's all pitch in. Don't mess with Texas.
Shamu.
Hi, I'm Bob Sanborn, host for this year's Access Awards for Programming Excellence, or the APPIES as we like to call them. They will be held this year on May 27th, live from the Heinen Theater here in Houston, but also shown here on Access Houston. The Access Awards honor the very best in local programming produced by and for those in governmental, public, and educational access. If you feel like you've developed a program or a video that is worthy of one of our awards, we encourage you to submit those by April 16th at 5 p.m., and there is a $10 entry fee. The categories for the awards are Arts and Entertainment, Community Service, Music Video, News and Event Coverage, Religious, Short Subject, Sports, Studio Talk Show, and Best of Show. In a separate division, we are also honoring documentary, live programming, on-location specials. And this year, for the very first time, we have the People's Choice Award, where you can vote for your single favorite Access Houston show. The show will be on May 27th, live from the Heinen Theater. We hope you'll watch us here on Access Houston.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the show. In case you just tuned in, this is the American Computer Enthusiast Show. My name is Steve Reeves. It's April Fool's Day. And our show tonight is just going to be a help show. We're going to be answering questions on anything you can think of, everything from DOS 6.0, which we've had questions already, to networking, to what's new, what's coming out. And our guest tonight is James DiMaggio from ABIS. And he'll be answering questions. I'll be answering questions. We'll just answer whatever you want to ask us. You know, if you've got family problems, no, I'm just kidding. But we've got a lot of calls. You want to continue? We might as well just keep going here.
Yeah, can I throw in an editorial real quick?
Okay, good.
There's a couple of things. You're going to run, we've been talking about DOS 6. If you're going to run double space, do a backup copy of your auto exec and your config sys. Do a backup of your hard drive before you install double space, just to be careful. This thing's going to reformat your hard drive, folks. And if you don't have the data, now Microsoft has done a great job. Even if you power it off right in the middle of double space, it'll come right back on you. But it's never, it's worth the time. Back up the stuff you want and make sure you have, because that data is very critical. That's all. Go.
If nothing else.
And I've got to show how to do a proper call in a batch file, apparently.
Right, apparently. I need to watch the help show. One thing that I wish I would have done when I had that problem with that menu file, the menu bat file, was copy my auto exec. I'm one of those people that tell everyone to make backups and don't do it myself. I don't practice what I preach, but I wish I would have done that, because it was real hard for me to figure out what it added, because it got rid of some of the device equals and it put high device or whatever it was, and it changes everything around. and I had to go back there and try to figure out what it did, because even when I went back and said undo what it did, it really didn't undo it completely.
Not well.
So I had to figure out what it was, but I figured out that's what it was, the menu. Let's keep going.
The easiest way is just do a copy space autoexec.bat space autoexec period SAV
Right.
or something like that, and just make a copy right there on your hard drive. You can always just copy that one
Right.
back over top. Go ahead, next.
Brian, do you have a question?
Yes, I'd like to know your opinion. What do you recommend upgrading those DOS 6?
To DOS 6, I'd highly recommend it. How about you? I mean, it really depends. Here's a couple of questions we have to ask you first. What computer are you using? If you're still
IBM PS1.
PS1, so it's a 386 then, probably? Okay. I would recommend it highly for a number of reasons. One, the double space. Number two, the mem maker to utilize your memory a lot better. The antivirus, the backup, the undelete. It has all kinds of fun little things, like even has a what do they call it? Numlock key off. It'll turn your numlock key off. There's all kinds of little things that come with it. It's well worth it. Now I will tell you, because James and I were talking about this earlier, if people that still have 286s and XTs, if there's still, I know there's people out there you have 286s, but XTs, I just stick with what you have, because it doesn't take advantage of all the new things. You can't run MemMaker, for example, with a 286. It has to be a minimum of 386. So, to use the memory, the upper memory and things.
Right. The other thing that you probably want to recommend, that I would recommend, is if you don't have over 1 meg of memory, MemMaker's not going to do you a whole lot of good, but double space will.
Right.
The other thing, since you have a PS1, buy the IBM version of the DOS 6 upgrade.
I don't think it's officially out yet. It's going to be out in what they said.
Then wait and
second
get
quarter
it.
Or something.
Oh, really?
I read in, I think it was PC Week or Computer Resale News, they said it's not going to be out till second quarter.
I thought they were releasing their own label on it. Never mind.
I don't think it's officially out yet.
Okay.
So you may want to wait till the PS or the IBM version comes out, but to take full advantage for your PS2.
Okay. Thank you.
But I do think it's well worth the price to upgrade the DOS.
Thank you very much.
All right,
Thanks for
you.
calling.
All right. One other thing we got more calls. Let's just keep answering questions.
Go.
We got 10 billion.
Go.
Irv, do you have a question?
Irv, baby.
Hey there, man. Yeah. Did they ever get, I gather from what I just heard from you, that undelete is working now? It didn't work when the beta versions came out.
It seems to work. I just took one file and just deleted it and undeleted it, and it worked. I didn't do any major things. I just wanted to just make sure that it was, I tried everything. I did the backup.
If you got that far, then it was working.
Right.
But
And I did it both in DOS and in Windows. I mean, when I loaded my the programs and things, it asked you if you wanted to use the DOS version only or the Windows version only, or DOS and Windows. I opted to do DOS and Windows, and it seems to work in both.
Okay, the other question I have about double space
Right.
is, suppose you want to undouble space.
That's a good question, because I don't think you can do it right now. I don't know if there is. I haven't figured it out, or I haven't been able to read it anywhere. I don't know if anyone else has this problem that has DOS 6. So there's a few things missing out of the documentation. They take a lot for granted, I think, or they're planning on a lot of people writing books for DOS 6.0, because there's a lot of things that they don't really talk about. And one of them is that. Can you undo it? I don't know if you can. I don't think you can.
No, you can't. That's the reason that I recommended doing a backup of your data beforehand, is do a full backup and save it. Don't go over that one. Put that one over to the side. When you get down to it, you're going to end up reformatting your drive.
Oh, it actually does a reformat of the drive?
Well, it does a defrag and everything else. I'm not sure exactly what it does to your hard drive, but when you run it, it actually doubles it, or what, it doesn't really double it, but makes it bigger and smashes everything. That's a technical term. Smashes all your files, and then does a defrag, so it actually goes through there. And I mean, for example, my computer at home, it's got a 210 meg hard drive, and it took about 2 hours for it to double space and defrag the whole hard drive.
Irv,
It's something you don't want to sit there and wait for it, that's for sure.
Irv, you worked on Stacker before, haven't you?
Oh, I've always been leery about these.
Okay, it's very similar to Stacker as far as what it's doing with the hard drive.
I know what Stacker is. Look, the question that bothers me is that you always hear that in DOS, they only honor 1024 cylinders. So if you have that's all you can use unless you partition your drive. That is, no one volume can be larger than 10 24 cylinders because DOS won't recognize anything above
That's
that.
wrong.
I don't know
That's
about
not
that.
true.
Is that? I don't know.
That's not true, Irv, because I can partition a 1 gig drive under DOS 5.
Yeah, you can partition, but how big are your partitions?
As big as, I mean, I've got a 1 gig drive partitioned with all drive C, the whole gig.
Oh, the whole thing? Okay, well, that, I've always been under the impression that DOS only honors 10 24 cylinders.
No, after 401, we could go above the 32 megabyte range, and that's when that started. So basically, we broke that barrier.
Okay.
Okay? Thanks for
yeah.
calling, Irv.
Thanks,
Okay.
Irv.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Grady, do you have a question?
How y'all doing this evening?
Hi, Grady.
Oh, God, we're great. We're Grady.
Got a couple of questions for you. In y'all's opinion, what's one of the more high-performing IDE caching controllers on the market, and also what's one of the more highly performing Windows Accelerator cards on the market? Keep in reason, average Joe, average budget, not going to spend, $1,000 on a video card.
Can I have that one?
Sure, go
Local bus, baby. Buy local bus.
Oh, well, wait in the game for that one.
Local bus is not expensive at all. You're looking at paying probably another $50 for the motherboard.
Okay.
You'll have 2 slots. You can get IDE controllers for them now that are operating at full 32-bit structure, and you can get the video card without processed operating at 32-bit structure, and basically you're looking at like a 40-time rate on the video. The performance index on these local bus things is tremendous as to how fast that they can go. They do a couple of things. Besides just being processed or cached, they're freeing up your CPU to do some more work because they actually bypass the CPU and do some of their own processing.
Understand.
So, with a 32-bit path, and that's going to become very neat when 32-bit stuff starts hitting, because you're already in line and you can use the full burst mode coming off of that local bus slot. So right now, if you're going to buy a motherboard or whatever and look at going that route, go with the local bus board is not that expensive, especially if you have the CPU. It's worth the upgrade.
Yeah, right now I'm at a 4633.
All right.
Okay.
What graphics board do you have in there now?
Pardon me?
What graphics board do you have in there now?
Thing card, it was a real, I'd say, a cheapie, but not real cheap. It does the job, but there's some packages I'm not real satisfied with the displays on.
All right. Well,
Another question.
wait, let me just answer real fast about the graphics boards.
Okay.
Because I do a lot of work in CAD, I find probably the 2 most powerful boards I've seen for a pretty good price. I mean, you can get, there's about 1 billion of them out there, but that Diamond Stealth board and the new Viper board are just unbelievably fast. In Windows, well, everything, but Windows especially, because they have all the drivers for Windows 3.1 and everything. And they have, what do they call it? They call it something. I forget what it is. But some sort of Windows accelerator built in, some program that comes with it. And another one are the ATI boards, the Graphics Ultra Pro and the Graphics Ultra Plus.
What do these boards run for? If I said, what does the Viper go for?
The Vipers, I think it retails for like $4.99, but I think it is a Stealth board. You can buy the Stealth board for, I think, like
About $2.
less. How much for the Stealth? We're at Harvey's. Harvey's our money guy here. How much? Is it about $400 for the Viper? I think it is. The Stealth board I know is about $300. I think.
That's 2.
I know. I think the retail price is like $295, but you can get it for less than $200. The Stealth board, and it is really fast.
The local bus is around about 150 is what you're looking at for a local bus.
Another question. Do you know if NetWire has released a version of NetX that's compatible with DOS 6 now?
No, they have not. I was just on the board earlier, and it may be just a little bit before you do. Now, DOS 6 has a setver in it again.
Yeah.
Okay, and you have to run setver. Now, you can run the 3.31 shell, supposedly.
Okay.
Okay, to check that out, and that's, they're telling me to look at the camera, okay? There. I keep talking into the phone tonight. But there's going to be some new modules coming, so hang loose, because we may see some VLMs, typical of 4.0, coming out for the 3.11 and the 3.2 release.
So what about Network 3.1.2? It's going to be kind of a...
Well, that's going to be called 3.2 is what they said, what they're telling me. And all it is basically is 3.11
with the patches,
60 to 80 patches that any good network installer, if you're not getting patches when you buy 3.11, you shouldn't be buying from there.
Exactly.
And the P-burst mode. that works under Windows. So all I'm waiting on is the P-burst mode, and I'll have 312 pretty much. We install all the patches at our shop automatically just because there's no sense in not doing it.
It covers you instead of going, okay, well, I've got this error. Let me go look up what patch resolves that and install it. This way you're covered from the get-go.
That's correct.
All right, guys, y'all have a good night.
Thank
thanks
you.
for calling.
Thanks for calling.
Bye.
One thing I want to make sure is apparently we had two callers that either hung up, we answered their questions or whatever, Jeff and Denny. If for some reason you hung up because we answered your question, that's great. But if somebody got hung up because we hung up on you, that's because Kay's doing the phones tonight. No, I'm just kidding. But Jeff and Denny, call back if you do have a question. What we ought to do, we've only got about a minute before the break. I'd like to, probably should have warned the camera people here if we should go in and start talking about some of this, or should we? Well, why don't we just go and go to a break?
We'll do it after the break.
We've got all kinds of things to talk about. What else you want to talk about?
I want to show you how to do a call at a batch file.
Okay. When we come back from the break, we don't have 1 minute. What do you want? You said something about Novell. What did Novell announce today?
Novell, NetWare 4.0, shipped today. It's official, ladies and gentlemen. They are now on CompuServe. You can go Novell, our Net 4X or 4WX, something like that. It's a forum base. Novell 4.0 is a drastic departure from Novell 3.1.1. The directory services are totally different. It's a wide area type global enterprising network now. VLM modules, all the utilities are under Windows. Matter of fact, some utilities are not even there except under Windows. DOS utilities aren't released yet. And so that's moving, and Novell has been talking to me about Novell 7.0 DOS. It's no longer going to be called DR DOS. It's now going to be called Novell DOS.
Novell bought, what did they buy?
Novell bought Digital Research and bought up that portion, and I've got a couple of little hot things on that we'll talk about after the break.
Well, we can still have time. Go ahead and keep
do we?
talking.
Dang, I thought I was going to time that just right for a segue. 32-bit structure is what they're telling me. Preemptive multitasking, NetWare Lite built into DOS now. So if you got Artisoft stock, sell it. It's going to be a dangerous thing.
James, I was wrong. We do have to take a break now. I'm sorry to cut you off.
Segway's over.
Yeah, your segway's over. How do you spell segue? Anyway, stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Bob Sanborn, host for this year's Access Awards for Programming Excellence, or the APPIES as we like to call them. They will be held this year on May 27th, live from the Heinen Theater here in Houston, but also shown here on Access Houston. The Access Awards honor the very best in local programming produced by and for those in governmental, public, and educational access. If you feel like you've developed a program or a video that is worthy of one of our awards, we encourage you to submit those by April 16th at 5 p.m., and there is a $10 entry fee. The categories for the awards are Arts and Entertainment, Community Service, Music Video, News and Event Coverage, Religious, Short Subject, Sports, Studio Talk Show, and Best of Show. In a separate division, we are also honoring documentary, live programming, on-location specials. And this year, for the very first time, we have the People's Choice Award, where you can vote for your single favorite Access Houston show. The show will be on May 27th, live from the Heinen Theater. We hope you'll watch us here on Access Houston.
Look, if my mother doesn't care about my homework, why should I care?
Show me a parent who really cares, and I'll show you a kid who can learn.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the show. This is the American Computer Enthusiast Show. My name is Steve Reeves, and I'm the host. And today is April Fool's Day, April 1st, 1993. This is a live show. The phone number is 861-6283. You can call and ask us questions. Our guest tonight is James DiMaggio from ABIS. And we're answering all kinds of questions about DOS, Windows, anything you might want to talk about. We have DOS 6.0. We've already answered a lot of questions on DOS, with networks, all kinds of different things. So if you have any questions, just give us a call. The one thing I want to start before we go and start talking about the call command that Jim's going to show us how to do tonight. I wanted to show the screen here and show some of the new things that they've added to the menus like in Windows, for example. Now, I'm not sure, I don't have, you want to show the screen? Okay. So what this is, you can see along the top, this is running at 640 by 480. Oh, I just touched the table, it's wiggling there. It's got some new commands. Now this is Windows for Workgroups. Even though I'm not connected, it's got Windows for Workgroups. So it's got some new pull-down menus that would be in Windows. There's backup, for example. If you bring down the tools, there's backup. And it brings up, it looks identical to...
it's Norton Backup.
Norton Backup.
They bought it from
And all
Norton.
they did was just rename it. It says Microsoft Backup. It looks identical. Asks me, it tells me I haven't configured it yet, so that's great.
Norton Backups by Norton, the antivirus and the undelete are by Central Point.
And then the defrag is exactly like, what's it called, system...
I think the defrag came with double space.
Yeah, the SI. What's SI?
Sysinfo?
Sysinfo. That's how defrag looks like.
Well, it's a shortened version of it, but that's what shipped with double
space. You can't change it to the default. It just optimizes, period. Where in Norton, you can go in there and change what kind of full optimization or whatever, put it in the right directories and things.
Double disk is now double space, and double disk always had that shortened version of Sysinfo. So does Stacker.
Right. So now you can see that it's got the same little icons and same little buttons that you had in on the other version that before it was Microsoft. And you can change things if you want to do a full and an incremental, whatever kind of backup you want to do. You can select the file, select the drive. Now this is one thing, before we go any further, you see this says H drive? That's what double space makes is an H drive. And while I'm talking about H drive, I might as well talk about the one problem that I had on this. So we'll just file quit out of here, file exit I mean. We just hit OK. So the way this works is, usually on this is Windows for Workgroups, and I usually have an A, B, C, actually on this computer I have an A, C, D, E, F, G, H drive. And what happened with Windows for Workgroups, every time you add another directory or another file directory from somebody else's computer, it adds another drive. Well, when you do double space, the first drive it does is H. Well, if you happen to already have an H drive, what it does, when you're in DOS, it works perfect, but when you go into Windows, it says that there is no double space. It can't find that H drive. So what you need to do is you need to unconnect or disconnect your H drive, and then come back in, and then it's there, and then reconnect your drive, and then it's an I drive. But your double space disk will be H. The reason I know is because I had to call Microsoft, and it's a bug.
It's automatically H, or is that because you had work groups in and you had D, E, F, G up there that it's set up at H?
It's actually not a bug, but it's a non-documented feature is what they call it.
Okay, but if you didn't have Windows for work groups and you just had a C, it'd be a D, wouldn't it?
No, it'd be H. It's always H drive.
Okay, I wasn't sure of that.
Yeah. And so what happens is you have to disconnect that H drive if it happens to be one of your network drives, and then you go back out and then come back, and then H is there, and then when you go back into File Manager, and then when you go back in, it'll make that what was H drive on your network into I drive. But the guy from Microsoft couldn't believe that no one had that problem before. But it's apparently only, it works different. I think it might be different for things like Novell or whatever, but I know for a fact it works that way with Windows for Workgroups.
That's going to cause some grief for Novell if you have a local H.
Right. And then also under Tools is antivirus, which is identical to the Central Point antivirus. It comes up, and it comes up. There it is, you can see it comes up. This is a 386SX20, so it's not the fastest machine here. And it's going through, and actually it'll go through and detect. I'm not going to detect there, but I've already cleaned, and I didn't do everything. There was no viruses found here, so it goes in. That's actually what was taken a lot, was going through that. You can go through the list, you can do detect or clean, we'll just exit out of there. And the last one is, under Tools, is the double space info. When you go to double space info, a little screen comes up and it shows you actually a little pie chart of space used was 54 megabytes and space free is 32 megabytes and a total of 86.3. If you go out to DOS, it actually says 90 megabytes. And then you can actually go in there if you want and pick files and see how they're compressed. So we'll just close this, and I'll just go over here and we'll just hit this right here and go over to File, and we'll say Select Files. Let's say All Files, every file known to man. Hit Close. And now go up here to Options, and to Tools, and go to Double Space Info. It'll show the same thing that you show details, and it shows all the files down here. There's that pointer again. And you can see how much it's compressed. You can see some of these are compressed 1.6 to 1 to 1. There's some that are 4.6. The biggest I've seen so far, I think, was like 16 to 1. Was one of them on the hard drive that I had. But you can see some of them only 1.5 to 1. So there's not every one of them is really compressed. That's why it's not a true double space.
Right. DLLs basically are very compactly written. Font files, DBF files, stuff like that are great. Basically, if you've used PKZip and you can tell which ones actually shrink a whole lot, then you're going to get the same idea with double space.
Right.
That's what's going to happen. It's how we can actually compact the algorithm and get everything to work.
But that's pretty much all they've done is Windows. They've added those few commands: undelete, backup, what's the other one? I just went my blank.
Antivirus.
Antivirus. And if you had Microsoft Windows for Workgroups, that's a mouthful there, you would have these little commands on the screen. So I'll just exit out of Windows here just so we can start showing DOS things. But we have some calls here. Why don't we just take them?
Go.
Denny, do you have a question?
Sure do. Thank you, Steve.
No problem.
Hey, how about a comparison of the new DOS against the current DR DOS? And, of course, what you were talking about earlier, any comments about the new DR DOS would be good to hear.
All right.
Okay, the old DR DOS. I didn't run it. I ran it for a little while and found it to be so buggy, especially underneath Windows, that I stayed away from it. Hopefully we'll have a lot better choice on the 7.0. Plus, they're now under Novell's umbrella, and Novell is very good about their beta test and about how well they implement, and they seem to really be dumping the resources into this.
More money for research and development.
Yeah, they're going after it on this one. I think what you're going to see is basically there's a code word running around called Chicago that Microsoft talks about with 32-bit preemptive multitasking and so forth. I think Novell DOS 7.0 is going after the same thing. Now, that's going to be a big deal, but now it's going to be a little while before you see 7.0 also.
All right.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for calling.
As far as compatibility issues, Microsoft is still the standard, ladies and gentlemen. There's just no other way you can go about it. If you want it to work, MS-DOS is the way to go, and everybody will eventually, I mean, you may find some things that are going to have glitches right off the bat. We did with 5.0. We will with 6.0. But all the vendors will come out and address that issue. DR DOS, a lot of them didn't address that issue. It was a very hard point to go with.
Right.
Go ahead.
And really, what I was talking about, they're really not bugs. There's workarounds for the few things that I did find out, but 95% of what I've done, I mean, the install and the fun things that come with it, they work perfect. There's just it's like every other program. You can't, especially if you've got a lot of things on your computer, all kinds of boards and interrupts and memory and all kinds of different wild things, you've always got some weird little problem. As a matter of fact, next week's show, I don't know those segues. Speaking of, is going to be on DMAs, IRQs, all kinds of interrupts, addresses. We'll have Dave Aldridge from the Aldridge Group here, and also James will be back. So we'll be talking about addresses and all kinds of conflicts and things. So I'm saying that now, so at 7 o'clock tomorrow, because we decided it could be kind of a dry show just talking about interrupts and DMAs. I mean, so 7 o'clock we want the phones ringing so that people have all kinds of questions you ever want to know. Any question you ever want to know about interrupts, addresses, DMAs, anything you want to know, make sure you call next week. But anyways, we've got some. Let's keep going.
Go for it.
Bob, do you have a question?
Yes, I want to ask you a question about the stealth board.
Okay.
All right.
And I have one.
All right.
It works great, so it doesn't seem to be as fast as other machines I've seen. That may be because I have it running on high resolution. But one thing that puzzles me is that on the board there is a mini pin connector. And in the documentation it just says this is the DESA. But it doesn't say what to connect it to or what it could be used for or how you could upgrade something with it or anything. So I wonder if somebody could tell me.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah. With the local bus or what?
Okay, VISA is the Video Extended Structure Architecture, and basically what you're looking at is a standard that the video industry has come out with, and you're going to see in the future, they say, plug-on modules that will plug on like a daughter board. And say you have your stealth board, you have your adapter, you can plug right onto it and give extended capabilities like high color, which is what, 76 million. What's high color at now?
I thought it was like
Our 32 million.
32 million,
32 million.
32,000, whatever.
Yeah, and things of this nature, maybe dual processed video, maybe a piggyback memory card for adding more memory onto the stealth card. It's an open end for the engineers to add on more things to the card later on.
There's nothing working now.
Nope.
Now, the one thing I will tell you, I have found that a lot of these high-resolution graphics boards, what resolution are you running it at right now?
It's the highest resolution.
The 1280 by 1024?
That's slow.
You may want to go down, just go down one resolution to 1024 by 768 or 800 by 600. You can get as many colors, if not more colors, but I noticed there really is a speed up.
I see.
I mean, of course, and your menus will get bigger too. But there really is a slowdown. Just about every program, not only Windows, CAD programs and everything else. If you go down one step, it always speeds it up because you're running it at like full bore and it's taking all the memory. So if you go one step down, it usually makes it faster right off the bat.
The amount of data that it's having to draw to do the 1280 mode is almost ridiculous. Unless you're on a 17-inch monitor and so forth, I don't recommend 1280.
Right.
Well, I'll try that. I've also noticed it takes forever for Windows to load on.
Oh, yeah.
That part of it too?
Yeah, because it's having to redraw your screens as it comes up. Realize that that resolution means how many dots across and how many dots down that you're looking at. And so, and each little dot is being drawn, and they're being drawn, you know, you're taking up double the amount of data structure as you are over a 640 by 480, approximately.
Just take it down
double.
one resolution, and I bet it'll speed it up immediately.
Take it down to 1024.
Load window, it takes minutes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay?
All right.
I also installed a coprocessor,
All right.
and I haven't noticed any speed up on that.
Well, it depends on what program you're talking about.
Windows, is it supposed to help Windows?
Let me throw some stuff out. Coprocessors are floating point. They're for math. If and that's, you'll see speed ups in anything that does math calculations
CAD.
or any type of a floating point process. CAD, spreadsheets like your Lotus, inventory packages that recalculate a whole bunch of numbers.
But
that
like
type of
Windows,
thing.
there's not a huge
Windows
difference.
doesn't use a math function at all when it's coming up. There's some things that you can tune inside your Windows that you need to look at. How many fonts you have on your system, how big your sysINI, your system INI, and your WinINI are, and you can trim those, and that will speed up your boot time dramatically.
I see. Okay.
I think also, does a permanent swap file speed up? It'll also speed up your load time, won't it?
No, it won't. It will help your 32-bit disk access to run better, and it will give you more memory structure. But really, in the load time, no, it doesn't actually have a physical difference.
I asked that just so that it make them look kids.
Thanks for the tips.
Hey, thanks. Thanks for calling. All right. Just real fast. We've got more people calling. We got more. Let's just keep going.
Keep going. How many calls can we take at a show?
I think you've got to turn the wrong way there. Okay. Matthew, do you have a question?
Oh, I have a comment first.
Okay.
That last caller asked about the VESA board on the video board.
Right.
One thing you can use on it are things like the new video boards, like the Video Blaster.
Video Blaster, right.
I didn't think of that, yeah.
That's one thing. And I also had one question about DOS 6. Is the actual structure different than DOS 5, or is it just added programs and stuff?
It looks identical. As a matter of fact, I read an article in PC Magazine that said it's DOS 5.0 just with new fun stuff, but it looks identical. DOS shell's exactly the same. They haven't changed that. They haven't changed edit. They did get rid of Edlin, but you can now buy Edlin for I think it's like $29.95. There's another like a disc that you can buy that's got all kinds of different utilities and all the basic like Gorilla.base and all those different things. But you can buy Edlin. But they most of DOS, the normal DOS functions are identical.
There's a new feature. You can actually prune your tree structure now and remove subdirectories underneath, and that's a DOS function
Like
now.
del tree or something.
Yeah, del tree.
Del tree, and it deletes. It'll actually delete the whole directory with everything in it.
And subs underneath it.
So you don't have to go through 20,000 gyrations just to delete some file directory inside of another directory, inside of another directory. Now, one great thing they did add is the help command. It's a lot better than it used to be. You can just type in help, and it gives you every single thing that you can type in. I hate to put them on the spot here. You want to show it on the screen there? Can we switch that real fast? I'll just type it in here. and we'll type in help, and they did add that. But to answer your question, it's identical to the way it was before, DOS itself. They just added all the new fun stuff. Can you see the screen there? No? It's coming up here. Ready, get set? Ready, get set? But they've got all the DOS help. There it is. Help commands. Like, for example, it's got ansi.sys. If you want to know about multi-config, that's another great thing. Another great thing about DOS 6.0, that you'd have to buy, either have a public domain or buy some program. What was it called? Like multi-boot or whatever.
Yeah.
What this allows you to do is you can have multiple config.sys files on your hard drive. It's actually a little. You do it in your auto-exec file, and you make these little comments and things. It's all in the book. Well, actually, it shows you right here. If you go in here and you can do examples, which is another thing. You type it in, and you can type in there, Steve, Lisa, whatever, and it'll come up on the screen if you go down here. And
shows what your comment is, and then what's specific to Steve
you can
and
actually
Lisa.
have multiple configurations. So, for instance, like at home, I have a hand scanner. I use the hand scanner almost never, but when I do, it's nice to have. So what I would do, but it takes up a lot of memory. So what I can do on here is have a multiple configuration, one that's for just regular DOS without the hand scanner, one with the hand scanner. And when it boots up, it'll actually give me options 1 or 2. And you can hit number 1, it'll be a regular DOS, config.sys. Or I hit number 2, and it'll take me and load up the drivers for my hand scanner. So you can have multiple configurations. I don't think there's really a limit. I guess you're limited by the screen, but you can see this new DOS function is pretty. This new DOS help function is pretty neat.
The other thing about the memory structure is different, basically because now we're going to regions, very similar to what QEMM uses. So if you're used to playing around with the regional base, then you can go ahead and jump up, and you can actually tweak and move things around by using what they call an STS file. memmaker.sts that it builds while it's trying to configure, and you can look at, it shows you some neat information, how big it is when it loads, how big it is when it runs, stuff like that that helps out when you're playing around with it by hand.
All right, we don't have much time left on this before we go to the break, but one thing I did want to show, one thing I like to do is make sure, I like to watch Harvey run around and have to go to that camera. That's my favorite thing to do. This is the mem command. It looks like pretty much the same, but they've explained, you can see what I did here. You probably can't see it, but like I've got double space, it loaded into high memory, and it shows you exactly what it did and where it's loaded. I think they might have changed this, the nomenclature, those great words, of how this works, but now you can see that this is all regular stuff like MS-DOS, high mem, 386, whatever, is in conventional memory, and all these other things, double space, smart drive, mouse is in the high memory. It seems to run a lot smoother. Right. So we need to take a quick break here.
Okay.
We've got a small segment when we get back, so stay tuned and we'll be right back.
Portions of this show have been made possible by PC People, Houston's user-friendly source for business software, serving the business and academic communities. Call PC People at 789-6300 and talk to our dedicated staff when you're looking for intelligent answers to your software needs. And by Total CAD Systems, specializing in the sales, service, and support of CAD software and hardware for the PC, Macintosh, and Sun. Total CAD Systems is an authorized dealer for AutoCAD, the leader in computer-aided design software. Call 721-CADD. And by Arc Image, creators of award-winning computer graphics and animation. For advertising, illustration, presentation, and communications, Arc Image can show you a better way to tell your story.
There are countries where bread is scarce, but this is America. Countries where electricity is rare, but this is America. Countries where infant mortality is a problem, but this is America. Here it's a crisis. Every 13 minutes, another infant dies. But we can help prevent many of those deaths with prenatal care from programs like Healthy Start. Find out what you can do. Why? Because this is America.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the show. In case you just tuned in, It's too late. We've only got a couple minutes left. But this is the American Computer Enthusiast Show, and we are having a help show, answering all kinds of different questions. We've only got about 3.5 minutes left, so we're going to take one fast phone call. Then we're going to let James just tell us about the call command, all right? So hold on one second here. Mike, do you have a question?
Yeah, I was wondering about the double space that's coming on the DOS 6.
Right.
Can you partition that so you can just have it double space part of your hard drive rather than the whole thing all at once?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Do you know?
Yes.
I'm not sure how you do. I did the whole thing. You have to go to customize. There's actually when you go through the install, you have two choices: express or custom. When you go into custom, it'll ask you all kinds of different questions, and I think one of them is how big do I want to make it, or partition, or whatever.
Is it hard to do the custom install?
I didn't do. On the 4 that I installed, I did the express. Bing bang. It was real easy to do, and but I didn't go. But I didn't want to mess with it because I had to get this done by the show, I mean, I tried to get as fast as I could, load everything up so I could answer as many questions as I could. But I don't know. I'll have to try one that do something different. Okay. But why don't we do this? Why don't you buy it, call us back next week, and let us know how easy it is.
Well, I'll think about it.
All right?
Thanks.
Hey, thanks for calling.
Bye.
All right, you want to talk about call?
If you're going to do something like Mem Maker, one of the biggest things that a lot of people miss is if your AutoExec, remember AutoExec is a batch file, and if it is calling another batch file like a menu bat file or a net bat or anything of that nature, previous to it running the batch file, say it says menu on that line, all you have to do is in front of that line put call and then a space and then the name of the batch file. What DOS does is it runs down one batch file. If there is a branch to another one, say it says menu, it runs over to menu and it runs menu.bat and it does not return.
Right.
If you tell it to call menu, it will go here, it will run menu, and it will come back and drop back through again. So if you're having problems with batch files when you're trying to optimize the memory, that's what's happening. And if you have more than one batch file being called, say menu.bat is calling net.bat also, you need to put a call menu, and it'll jump over, and wherever menu batch file calls the net, you can put it over there. But the safest way is just put call menu bat and then call net bat in your AutoExec, and it'll just continue drop through and return and restore. That's all I got.
That was pretty easy, huh?
Yeah,
I can't believe I've never done that
Just put the words
before.
call in front of it, and it'll solve the problem.
I'll do it tomorrow. Another thing that DOS 6.0 that we didn't talk about is there's a thing called Interlink. Interlink, I think is what it's called.
I think so.
And what it does, it actually has, you can connect, it's sort of like LapLink. It's not as, doesn't have all the bells and whistles in LapLink, but it's a fast and easy way to just connect your two computers if you don't have a communications programmer or something like that. But it actually has the configuration and the cables and everything in the manual. By the way, while we're going here, I might as well show you, this is the manual. It's got this fun little map on the front, tells you exactly how you're supposed to load everything. There's not a whole lot to it, and it comes you can get it in 2 formats, I think right now, only 2 formats. One is the 1.44 meg, and the other is 1.2 meg. I'm trying to make sure you can see this. And that's the only way. I think then you can order the other ones. Everybody's telling me to hurry up and wrap it up. But I want to make sure I thank my guest, James. Thanks for coming, and I guess we'll see you next week. And next week's show is interrupts, DMAs, whatever you want to talk about, but it'll be all kinds of memory addresses. So stay
marital
tuned.
conflicts.
And marital conflicts. So stay tuned next week's show. Make sure you watch next week's show. We'll see you later. Thanks.